high-level meeting to discuss India's security preparedness on Sunday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi stressed that every effort must be made to make India self-reliant in the defense sector. The meeting was held against the backdrop of Ukraine-Russia war in Eastern Europe. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, and Foreign Secretary of India Harshvardhan Shringla were among dignitaries who attended the key meeting. It is a known fact that India has a heavy dependence on Russia for its defense needs. At this juncture, the United States, whom India has built robust ties with over the last decade, also exerting pressure on New Delhi to condemn Moscow's action and distance itself from Russia. In security analysis today, we'll analyze India's dependence on Russia for defense needs and the role of Washington. Our first guest for today is Major General Ashwani Siwach. Siwach sir is an Indian Army officer with over 36 years of operational experience, operations entailing planning and conduct of extensive military maneuvers. He has headed the Territorial Army, dealing with multiple government ministries like Ministry of Environment and Forest, Ministry of Oil and Natural Gas, Ministry of Railways, etc. Siwach sir has participated in all major operations undertaken by Indian Army, has served on prestigious staff assignments and managed diverse responsibilities within the Indian Army. Our second guest for today is Major General P.K. Chakravorty. Chakravorty sir is an alumnus of National Defense Academy, and he had been commissioned into Regiment of Artillery, a silver gunner who has undergone long gunnery staff course, staff college, and is a graduate of National Defense College. He has commanded medium regiment and composite artillery brigade. He has also served as defense attaché to Vietnam. Sir has also written books and articles and projects with Indian think tanks like IDSA, USI, CLAWS, St. George, and VIF. Our third guest for today is Major General Samar Singh Toor. Toor sir has over 10 years of wide-ranging experience in various challenging profiles and roles in the Indian Army. Toor sir has been awarded GOC in C in 2017 and the second GOC in C commendation by Lieutenant General Shaukin Chauhan, Strike Corps Commander, and Lieutenant General Ranbir Singh, NC Army Commander, for distinction and exceptional contribution in the fields of operations involving administration, logistics, business development, project management, energy saving and green initiatives, and hospitality and event management in Indian Army. Sir was deployed in South Sudan from 2013 to 2014, and sir was currently active in evacuation process of Indian nationals from the war zone of Sumy, Ukraine. We at Bharata first welcome all of our guests. So I'll begin the program with Praveer sir. Praveer sir, my first question to you is, what is the level of dependency for India on Russian spares and equipment in the defense sector?
Well, you can hear me, I hope.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's all. Let me put it very clearly. The dependency, as quoted by CIPRI, was initially about 68%, but I believe the latest report says 43%. Okay, and these figures, and I have not read the latest CIPRI report, but which is coming out, possibly it will be out in a few days, will be that it's about 43% is our dependence right now, as far as Russia is concerned. But overall, when you look at it, it's not only you're just looking at, you have asked us a very simplistic question, what is your dependency? It's not a grocery shop or something where you are depending on just spares or what you call just the equipment. The point is that, listen, I mean, having dealt with Americans directly on this subject, when you want one issue known as technology, okay, nobody wants to spare technology and give it. Whether it's China, we have even told China, why don't you give us technology? All right, we come to that. You give us. We have told Turkey, I've given an RFP to this thing. The only country which voluntarily gives you technology, that would be the correct answer to your question, is Russia. And this is in all strategic affairs. whether you talk of what you call a nuclear submarine, whether you talk of, that is, I'm talking of the SSBN or the SSN, whether you talk of today a fighter aircraft, the AMCA, which has just been possibly talked about today morning, or whether you're talking about a tank, whether you're talking about a gun, whether you're talking about, say, even today, rockets, whether you're talking of today a rifle, I mean, say, leave anything else. So therefore, this is the only country which looks at you as far as defense technology is concerned with so much of affection. And they don't give it this way that, okay, we'll give you this. Like, say, we got the gun, and I remember the negotiations very clearly for the ultralight howitzer. You say you got the gun, that is the ultralight howitzer, but the site can't be given to you because you have not signed the SISMOA. I'm just saying, we're just going to sign SISMOA. So what do? You go for the site. So you see a site from Canada, you see a site from Scotland. Now, with US equipment, the problem doesn't end there, which I've spoken to the Americans directly on the subject. Today, if you need a replacement for a tire for the radar or something, it's extremely difficult. With Russia, the whole issue is when you get these products, when you get these spare parts, and whatever the percentage, it's on a very, very friendly basis. They are prepared to help you. Yes, the price they ask is very high. Anything Russian is not what it used to be. That is the answer, possibly a short answer to your question.
Yeah, sir. Actually, whether be it S-400 or submarines, we have always been dependent on Russia. And like you said, that they usually charge a large amount. So my second question, which will be addressed to Major Samar Toor, that, sir, how shall we reduce this dependency and what is being done to address the issue?
Well, currently, the main issue of being self-dependent is basically the upper hand that we have with Russia's transfer of technology that Sir just mentioned. It comes at a cost. That is why there is a plant which has just come up near Raebareli for the manufacturing of the latest AK series weapon that we'll be inducting into the army. Similarly, but whereas you see, when it comes to Russia, it's like a matured friend, since 1971. So over the number of years, we've got these space programs together. We've got these together. We've had these missile programs, for example, BrahMos. So these are very classified and very secretive programs where it is very rare that any country will let you even in and let you know the technology or the know-how about the latest technologies regarding these equipment. So it is not that over the year, it has taken a very long duration to win this trust. Recently, you saw a Russian rocket, they removed all flags, but the Indian flag remained. So it is a clear-cut message that Russia is giving out to the world that we can have faith and trust in India. And the reason being, we are basically, we are going to be interdependent is we are aware of how to manufacture this weapon now. That is the best part. As far as even Toor is concerned, let's take, for example, Israel. We have a plant which is manufacturing Toor now in India. So basically, there's been a transfer of technology only because of the trust basis that India has made over the number of years through political dialogue, trade, and socio-cultural relationships with these countries. And this is what we are heading towards, T90 and T72. Chennai is the place where these are being again installed and manufactured. For upgradation for the sites, yes, we are dependent on the Russians, which they are providing us now bit by bit. And there are places, I will not name them, where the latest modules and refresher courses are taking place for all the technical officers to upgrade with the sites, which are thermal and which are night sites of very high vision and with long ranges. So you see, Russia and Israel are the ones on which we are totally dependent. For example, we have the IL series of aircrafts. Now, in Ukraine, the main hub for production of the IL series aircraft was the Antonov company. So as a result, yes, indirectly it will affect our IL series aircrafts for procuring the spare parts. Then we have the BMP. Then we have the anti-aircraft guns. Then we have the MiG-21s. We have the Sukhoi series. We have the T-90, T-72. We have the sniper rifles. We have the ATGM anti-tank guided missile launching system. So 90% of our arsenal, which is for fighting, the AGLs, everything is all Russian make. And only the reason why it is Russian make is the metallurgy is good. They are very durable. They are all weather and time tested seasonal weapons. That is what I would like to put in over here as of now.
Thank you, sir. My third question will be addressed to General Siwach. Sir, we keep talking about Atmanirbharta, and especially our Prime Minister has given deliberated on being Atmanirbhar, and defense is one of the sector that he aims, and even Rajnath Singh has talked about Atmanirbharta, and we are quite going towards it. So will we truly be self-reliant in case of defense, and how long do you think that it will take?
It's a long journey. It won't take less time. It will take quite a bit time. Remember that majority of our defense equipment we were importing, and maximum item which we were importing was from Russia. No doubt it was about 65 to 70%. It has come down to almost 45%. So the fact it is that indigenously we were not manufacturing too many defense items, and hence the defense industry within the country had not taken off, and due to which most of the items we kept on purchasing from outside. Initially from Russia, especially in terms of our missiles, in terms of our tanks, in terms of our aircraft, they have mainly come from Russia. And thereafter, now we have enlarged our inventory. We are now going for France, we are going from US, we are also going from Israel. So that inventory has increased. But more than that, what we have done is that we have now started manufacturing majority of items within our own country. Now, that has happened due to 3-4 reasons. One is the confidence which we have gathered after this government has come. He said majority of items must be manufactured in the nation itself, and more than 200 items have been declared that there will be no import of these items. They have to be manufactured within country, and the private players have come up. So there is a public-private partnership, due to which you are now manufacturing guns here, you are manufacturing the ships here, you have managed to manufacture a aircraft carrier. Now, basically, Vikrant is already ready and is carrying on a sea trial. It will come up. We have manufactured LCA, light combat aircraft, light combat Hector. Tejas Mark 1 and 2 is going to become a reality. We have now also got BrahMos, where we are trying to export it, though it is a joint venture between India and Russia. But certainly what has happened is in last about 10 years, the complete environment of defense industry has changed within the country, and you find a small players, private players coming up and start contributing in the defense item, and this has changed the mindset within the country, and you'll find it over a period of time. What was being told is by 2025 we shall able to export about $5 billion worth of defense item. That is possible. The another thing which change has come is that initially we were purchasing items and we did not pressurize on transfer of technology. Now, due to which we remain dependent on that country for a long, including Russia. You see, Russia, I agree on one issue, that they have been most dependent friend over a period of time. But we must also understand they are very difficult negotiators. Whatever item which we have got it from Russia, initially they do not look that costly, but their spare parts and maintenance is very, very costly. But nonetheless, they were reliable friend, and we appreciate that. But what is the requirement of the day is a transfer of technology. What happened in BrahMos? Now, if I give my example of two basic equipment which we bought, one is basically we have bought K9 Vajra from South Korea, and the transfer of technology took place, and the L&T is manufacturing in India itself. Now also M777 ultralight howitzer, which we got it from America, it is been manufactured by Mahindra Defense. So the point what is happened is, one is we have enlarged the inventory. Second thing is we are now depending on manufacturing within our own country. Two defense corridor had been created, one in north and one in south. Aim of this is number of defense-oriented industry should come in these hub centers, manufacture items, and it is not only one item. When you manufacture, let's say, aircraft, with aircraft, there are number of industries which are required to have a smaller part. So that is what it is happening. We are on a correct path. I suppose a correct decision has been taken. Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India concept, it will pay us dividend, not immediately, but over a period of time. And you will find it in time to come, we will able to export. Now this what war has been taking place in last 3 times has shown to the world the conventional warfare has a place of its own. The way Russia has attacked Ukraine, no one ever thought, and hence now the demand of items being manufactured within your own country will increase, because when the chips are down, you do not know who all country will stand by you and able to get those items. So the mantra is maximum item must be manufactured in country like India. And we have our two hostile enemies toward our border, one in North China, which you never know when the balloon can go up, and on the western sector is Pakistan. So the requirement of the day is that we should able to have our indigenous industry coming up and manufacture majority of items within country. And I suppose we are going in the right direction.
Yeah, sir. Actually, like you said, that nobody would have imagined that Russia will be full-fledgedly attacking Ukraine and conventional war, when everybody was talking that in modern world we won't be fighting any conventional war. But Russia's attack on Ukraine has given us a different kind of thinking. So it will be better if we are Atmanirbhar, because in international affairs and in diplomacy, then we cannot rely on anyone fully. And like you brought Ukraine-Russia war, sir. So my next question to General Chakravorty will be, sir, this war and the Ukraine-Russia war, what security and strategic challenges will it pose to India?
Well, as far as India is concerned, there are tremendous security as well as strategic challenges. I think General Ashwani Siwach has firstly brought out, everybody was talking that conventional war is a thing of the past, and we are now into what is basically a hybrid war and the gray zone and all that. We need to realign our thinking. I think the next thing that comes out very, very clearly is when you launch operations like this, okay, and at such a scale where 4 fronts are opened up simultaneously, you have one from Belarus, the second going into the Donbass region, the third, which is what you call basically at Kharkiv, and the fourth is from the Black Sea, and which involves even a naval blockade. I mean, say, when you look at it from that way, your capability of really distinguishing who is who. Now, you must understand the Ukrainian Air Force and the Russian Air Force have the same equipment. Right, it's very, very rather enjoyable when often they have not been, neither the Ukrainians have been able to identify nor the Russians who is firing who, except for the Turkish UAV. It's very, I mean, it's never happened in war this way, and they have been trained also together. The Ukrainian forces have been trained by Russians. Very, very, it's extremely what you call, shall I put it, interesting to watch this. So this is something you must understand. So next is, a lot of Ukrainians form a part of the Russian armed forces. Now, when you do this, you have to be very, very careful that you don't do things in excess where, without a reason, civilian casualties are caused. Next. The West has been ensuring that Ukraine continues to fight, despite Zelensky trying his best. That means India can also come across a situation which happened in the 71 war, that Pakistan was egged on by the United States to continue fighting till, till a situation came when what you call possibly, at least the eastern sector, we achieved what you call a coup de main, if I may put it, by what you call landing the para-battalion and landing forces across the Meghna River, which compelled, otherwise the Americans were constantly egging Pakistan, which they are doing now. This comes out because the Ukrainians, if you watch the president's, what he's talking in between the lines and what they are talking in their talks between Turkey, they are quite what you call amenable to stop the war. And so is Russia amenable to stop the war. Next, you must understand that blockade. If you watch, Russia has now blocked all the routes for these anti-tank weapons and these air defense weapons which were coming. Next point, which is important for India, is today, I mean, say we have got these militants. God forbid they get these Stingers or these hot missiles. I really can't say. Even there are this thing that what you call, they could get what you call the dirty bomb. An article has come in India today by Raj Chingappa itself. Now you get these Stingers and you get these, I mean, the Stingers have been used in the Kargil war, and you get the hot missiles and they are used. They don't need much training, but at the same time, again, like the Russian tank and the Ukrainian tank is the same. There is no difference. So God knows who is shooting whom. And last comes the other important aspect, the propaganda war. The amount of disinformation which is going on is something which is incredible. It's just can't be believed that so much of, you really get a feeling as if, that what you call Russia is on the brink of collapse and this and that, and sanctions are having an effect. I've lived in Vietnam, which was under sanctions. And I've seen, I mean, even when we tested our nuclear weapon, our sanctions, I think, as I was telling the Americans a few days back, our sanctions were there for the last 2 or 3 years. Okay, we have lived under sanctions. I think sanctions harden the people much more. If you tell General Siwach he's under sanctions, he will get more hardened. And ultimately, you can't sanction the human brain and the human capability to fight. Next lesson learned very, very nicely. You make everybody a member of the NATO. Poland, Latvia, and what you call Czech, and all these. In Second World War, one must go that everybody can't fight. I think the Chinese are right. The only 2 countries which can fight them, I'm excluding Japan, in Asia, they have said it's India, and the next is, they have said very clearly, is Vietnam. The rest are not capable of fighting. Similarly, the Indian army can't consider, I'm just returning from the line of control. And if I may say, we consider that Pakistan is not capable of fighting us, I think we are making a great mistake. So therefore, the Ukrainian forces, where they can, they are fighting. The Russians are fighting. Yes, where the application of force is taking place and the correct thing, the Russians are proving better. Another thing is the use of simulators. Russians, I think they have been using simulators much more, and they have been encouraging us also to buy all these simulators and their equipment than carrying out live exercises, which the US has been doing. Now, it has taken them some time to realize as to what is the importance of really getting on to battle fighting. And last issue, I named all these countries. If you have them, do you mean to say Poland can fight? I think Hitler conquered Poland in one night. Even today, if today, I mean, Russia has to do something with Poland, since when has Poland come in or Romania come in? People who have attacked, we can't forget history. This is the most important thing for the India. When you look at wars, you must understand wars is an evil. War is a continuation, as Clausewitz says, of political ends by other means. All right. It is not something which anybody likes, but you have to have it and you got to be prepared. And you've got to nurse your defense forces for that. And you cannot have today the Americans, like they trained, we also trained, we trained the Taliban. Do you mean to say you train somebody in an academy and send him and he can fight a war? It is much more than that. It is a development of what you call esprit de corps and other things. So they were to think that Poland and Romania will be able to fight and they will be able to stand up against Putin, and the United States will say that if this comes here, not an inch will go. Nice to make these declaratory statements. It is like Seventh Fleet decided to come in. So you have counters coming. Last point for India. See, even in discussions in India, we have often said that there's one superpower, which I'll say is a hyperpower, the United States. And Russia may have the second best air force, they may have the second best army in terms of quality and all, or even the Navy is concerned in terms of equipment. But even in India, in discussions, we realize that they are not a world power. I think this idea needs to be questioned. I've often asked, when I remember in a discussion of smart power, and I don't want to name the person who conducted it. He's a very renowned strategic thinker. And he didn't include Russia. And my question was, why didn't you include Russia? He said, Russia today no longer is a world power. If it's not a world power, why is the world shaking so much? And look at the shake with the world. You apply sanctions. And my son has rung me up that oil today costs in the United States 79 cents per gallon more. A gallon is 4.55 liters. That means almost $1 the price of oil has gone up where in the United States. So you have put the sanctions. And now having put the sanctions, what's happening? The US citizens, they are paying more. Lastly, opinion in the United States is a very divided opinion. I have heard Trump. He is now also saying Putin is a very good person. Now, he was the former president. You may say he was this and that. That doesn't matter. The point is he was elected by the US people. The next, in discussions, the Americans are very nicely saying Russia could manage a president of their choice in the 2016 elections. Look at their capability. Now, the last thing which I want to say, since you asked me what is India's lesson, is cyber warfare. Russians have used cyber warfare, the Americans and the NATO is helping Ukraine to counter it. How much it has countered, how much it has not countered, you can see most of the cities are in a poor state. I repeat, Russia does not want to get involved in this dirty game of urban warfare. They, I don't think, expected a cakewalk like what they did in Crimea, because the population, they are well aware that the population was not very friendly. Nobody is reporting in their favor. So I must put the facts as a military man, right? That they did not expect what you call, but they want only one aim. That is, Ukraine should not form a part of NATO. Even one day before 24th of February, Putin says that if they declare that Ukraine will not be a part of the NATO, we will not launch war. Tulsi Gabbard, she's a Democrat congresswoman, a former Democrat congresswoman who will be fighting for the US president against President Biden in the next election, has said very clearly even today that why are we keen to get Ukraine in the NATO? Since you are asking in India, would we like today China to come and say, sit down in Nepal, in whatever form? Will like China to be in Sri Lanka? Would we like China to be sitting in even Gwadar? Are we happy when their submarines come? Are we happy today when Myanmar today openly says, if they say that the Chinese PLA is now carrying out exercises in Myanmar? Every day our papers are full that 75% of what you call Bangladesh equipment is from China. So if we are not happy, we have to understand, that's what I'm saying, the perception that Russia is a world power. And definitely the last point, which I always bring out, you get the NATO. Let's say today Ukraine joins the NATO. Now you have placed two nuclear, what you call, people close to one another. It is not without reason that in 1994 nuclear weapons were removed from Ukraine and they were brought back to Russia. Okay, now you have placed Russia and, shall I put it, the NATO, or in which the principal actor is across the other side, the United States. I deal with weapons. And let me tell you, there could often be what we use a term, every time the term keeps improving, as technical malfunctions. During the Cold War, 5 times, there were 5 occasions and when nuclear weapons could be used between Russia and the Soviet Union. You want that situation, please keep them close by. Missiles, you cannot say who will do what. Despite the best of what is known as PALS, it's an abbreviation, I don't want to go into it. Best of safety measures, you will have incidents happening. Particularly when such huge nuclear forces are concerned. And you see, when you deploy today, make Ukraine and all these people, what have they got? They would want that, okay, there will be people who would like to deploy their force assets. After all, in the Cold War, what was the main front of the NATO? NATO made it clear that if the Russians ever advanced, they will use nuclear weapons. Simple.
Yes, sir. Like
there
you
was
said,
no red line.
Yeah.
I think I'll end over here.
Yeah, like you said that you wonderfully summed up, whether be it historical connections of Russia with Ukraine, like you told about, you talked about history. So one of article which I read says that the first of the Rus came from Ukraine. So they have a historical connection, and especially the Eastern Ukrainian people. So that was wonderfully summed up, sir. And next question will be from Major Samar. Sir, what since every one country in world is trying to take a side, so how can we maintain, which we have been maintaining since now, same distance between Moscow and Washington?
Well, to just add up to your question, what I'm basically, the thing is, the reason why India is holding a very strong position at a world stage today is because we are leading by example with the non-aligned movement. So we are a country which is not instigating any other country in the world by taking anybody's side. So if we are not siding with anybody, we have created our own independent identity on a world forum. So when in UN, when we speak, people listen because they know we are not biased, we don't have prejudice, we don't have any preconceived notions, firstly. So that is one of the main reasons. Secondly, as Chakravorty sir had said, this is basically a repetition of history. In 1989, once the Russians were ousted from Afghanistan, they lost all initiative as a world power. And then the media rhetoric and the Western country media put in such a face of the Soviet Union that they had no place to hide. So they were on the back foot. Today, what I would say so many years back was the Cuban Missile Crisis is now the Eastern and Western country power crisis. Ukraine has basically become a puppet or an ego of power between USA and that of Russia. And as Sir said, the mindset of the Ukrainians, the training of the Ukrainians, their language, their culture, it's almost same. Because recently, sir, when there was the evacuation of the students from Sumy and Kharkiv, I had played a very vital role in coordination with the Indian embassy to get these students out. So at that moment of time, I even made it a point to give a call to the Chechen Deputy Secretariat head, Mr. Abdul Karim, and I spoke to him for 6 minutes. And out of desperation, I gave a SOS call that, sir, our Indian students, approximately 700, are stuck at Sumy. We need immediate humanitarian aid. The crisis is not going to prolong further because Children are already at the brink. The reason, it's become so much of chaos because Zelensky's leadership chose to arm the local population. So basically, it is not a national resistance now. It is fueled lawlessness. It is fueled chaos. It is already fueled disorder in the country. So when there were negotiations between Russia and the Indians for a green corridor to get the students out, basically the Ukrainians were already lacking a administrative communication structure. So I was speaking to the counterparts in Russia. They said on the table, Major Toor, they've agreed on these statements. Within 3 days, there will be a ceasefire. It will be amicably be followed religiously. Now on ground, what happens? When the Indian students are asked to board the buses and they proceed towards the Russian border for Belgrade, there is a prominent firing by the Ukrainians on these buses. Eventually, the students were brought back and they were put back into the hostels. That is where the point of no return came, and I gave a call to the Chechens. And I said, there is an issue. So they said, Russians are cooperating. It is the Ukrainians who are not. Now, the reason that they gave was Ukrainians have come down to using civil population and students as human shields. And it is a very big matter of concern. That is the reason why the main thrust of the Russian forces from the northeast was prominently from Sumy and from Kharkiv. And from North Chernihiv, definitely they are going to come in from there. So the whole northeastern approach towards Kyiv stalled because of Sumy and Kharkiv. So Russians are very well aware there are many tricks going on in Ukraine. And as Sir said, this is a hybrid warfare, right from outer space to the place where you are sitting right now in front of a audio visual device like a mobile, like how we are interacting, to videos which have been manipulated in the previous recordings and are now being portrayed as present scenario. So there have been a lot of misinformation that is going on. And then you have the neo-Nazi groups which are actually in main control at the outskirts of these cities, who are actually not letting the civilian population leave, because their only passport for their extension of life and safety is that the local populace remains within the city limits. So that is one of the reasons why people are asking, why is Russia not progressing ahead? Russia will not do a blunder what it did in Chechnya. They moved in and there was a total massacre of civilians, which again gave it a bad name in the Western world. So Russia is going to think 10 times before it is going to step in for any operation. It is going to surround Kyiv. It is going to isolate it. It is going to cut it off, and it will take time. I'm very sure they are definitely not there to, it wasn't a walk in the park. I'm sure a country which is investing billions of rubles for an invasion is definitely not to reach Kyiv, have a cup of tea and coffee, have negotiations and go back. They are technically and strategically going to isolate Ukraine, which they already have, from Donetsk and Luhansk. These two were the main industrial hubs. The main hub for providing steel for production of the tanks to Pakistan, the T-80 UD series. So all that was being produced by the steel that they were procuring from Luhansk and Donetsk. And then they have the maximum mining from which they are getting coal is from Luhansk and Donetsk. So basically, it was the nerve center for their economy, which firstly Russia targeted, number one. Number two, the gas pipeline. Ukrainians were charging them tremendously high cost for the transit of their gas pipeline via Ukraine, which was feeding their economy in a very large extent. Then number three, the Ukrainians siding with the West and getting lured that they will become a member of the NATO, and they will have an independent, strong second country like how Georgia is. So basically, Georgia's that example of Georgia, that model was being applied onto Ukraine, which they fell for it. And now they are basically standing at the crossroads where there is no other country, developed country, let me rectify you on that, no developed country is ready to hold Ukraine's hand at this moment. Strategically, all mercenaries which were being pumped from the West have been targeted day before yesterday. The mercenaries who've come back alive have vowed they are not going to go back again. Because their intelligence, the Russians have got their intelligence people right into the population of the Ukrainians. Sir, I would like to bring to your notice, there was an Indian citizen named Sanjay Majnani. I helped him escape from a place called Chernihiv via Cherkasy into Lviv. This person was in a convoy of 8 cars. The first 2 cars were riddled with bullets and people killed. He was in the 5th car. His Ukrainian wife was 7.5 months pregnant, and he also had a 7-year-old daughter. They are safe today. They are in Poland. When their convoy was attacked, they were made to lie down on the ground. This gentleman, after reaching Lviv, gave me a call and said he saw 35 to 40 bodies at a roadside, at a checkpoint manned by Ukrainian territorial army. So they have been killing selectively all the fluent Russian-speaking people who are trying to escape. Now the logic that the Ukrainians are applying is Chernihiv is the northernmost country, northernmost state which is bordering Russia. So all the Russian agents and the intelligence officers will infiltrate from this route. As a result, there is mass killing of Russians which has already begun.
Yes, sir. You said that Russia will, a lot of articles I've also studied that everybody is talking that Russia thought that it would be a cakewalk for it to go to Ukraine and win it. But then you gave the alternate reality that Russia never might have thought about thinking about it as a cakewalk. So my next question will be from General Siwach. Sir, not only US, but the whole world, even Ukraine has come forward and said that India should play a major role. India should play a major role. And what role do you think that India should play?
First of all, let me tell you first, initially when we were asking what are the lessons which we have learned from this conflict between Russia and Ukraine. I'll touch upon this answer slightly later. One of the lesson which has been learned is now every country will think that they are vulnerable to any external aggression and hence they should become powerful themselves. You will find the armament industry will be flourishing like anything, and they will going for a collective security like NATO or something else. And hence a country like Finland and Sweden, which said we will not join NATO, has changed their mind. Now the point, 2 things which I told you. One is they will now all will like to have maximum weapons so that they can protect themselves. They must have indigenous weapons so that they are not too much dependent on others. Third thing which they are saying, a race for becoming nuclear. You will find that now rogue states like North Korea or Iran has become nuclear. Now other states are telling, had Ukraine been nuclear, had Ukraine not given their weapons in 1990, could the Russia attack? Now these things are going to working in the mind of everyone, because remember the world has been told so many times the time for conventional warfare is gone. It is hybrid warfare, it is warfare, but that has not proved. You can imagine a raw force being applied by Russia on Ukraine. The whole world is a mute spectator, and we are seeing a football match, and we are appreciating every day who is winning, who is losing. Now this is going to be the fate of this world in next country which become a victim. So hence every country will now go for their own security. They will buy more weapons. They will try to become nuclear so that they can protect. Third thing is, my take is, today is a world which is a modern world. It is a a country which is sovereign. It is required to choose its own path. Accepted Russia did not like the NATO to come to the doorstep of their own in Russia and especially in Ukraine. And they don't want Ukraine to join NATO. But the type of force they have used it, China can use anywhere and can get away. China can now grasp Taiwan, say Taiwan is a part of us. It is about to do it. It can come to India. So my point is, we cannot appreciate such things in future. Otherwise, there will be no world order. And anyone who is mighty and powerful can enter in any country. This is the lesson which everyone is trying to get it. And what India has got lesson is that we must make our indigenous industry well oiled. We should able to manufacture maximum weapon within our own country. When the chips are down, you will not get the weapon from others. You have to fight your own battle. Should you have to fight with China, you will be all by yourself. So be mentally prepared for that. The another what impact we will have, especially on this war between Ukraine and Russia, is been covered by both other panelists also. 2-3 points. One is, the oil and gas, zinc, copper, lithium, their prices are going to soar up. The economy of the whole world is shrinking by 0.88%, and Indian economy itself will be almost 1.5% GDP. It will go down. The reason is oil, gas will become very costly, and so will be the other matter like copper, zinc, iron, steel. So this will also have an adverse impact. Third thing is, we all know in Ukraine we had some good projects going on in 32. Modernization plan was going on. Then we were getting basically gas turbine engine for our ship. That is also gone for 6. Third thing, you will find that we were getting oil and gas to some extent from Ukraine also. So you will find this will also have impact. Now the next question you asked is, what role India can play? Can India be an ideal mediator? Because India is a country which is loved and respected by everyone. India is a friend of US and other NATO countries. India is a friend of Ukraine. India is also a friend of Russia, because Russia is a country which has stood by us all the time. So therefore, if you see the whole world, you find that some or the other, the person is tilted to one side. Say Israel. Israel is one country which is taking initiative and want to now become a mediator, because Zelensky is basically a Jew. And also Israel has some interest in Ukraine. Israel is building up its relationship with Russia in last 2-3 years. Israel has good relation with US also. But still, the Russia does not sort of have complete faith on Israel, because Israel over a period of time has been very close to US, and therefore that fear remains in the mind of Russia. Having said so, should India become a mediator? Should India have a role? I say no. The reason is simple. If we say yes, what is the implication? Now, if we take our mind back to Kashmir issue, when in Kashmir conflict, Donald Trump also wanted to intervene, want to mediate. So is the other, president over a period of time. India has very categorically pointed out it is a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan, and hence it should be resolved by them. There is no scope and room for mediation. Now, should we do mediation like this, then our Kashmir policy get a setback, and then other country will also say, when these are two nuclear countries, there can be a flashpoint. Why can't we this mediation between India and Pakistan? How can we leave everything on these two countries which are nuclear and are continuously fighting against each other for last about 50 to 60 years? So that is a point where possibly we know. But otherwise, we can play a major role. Having said so, we are still playing it, because we are trying to bring a peace, tranquility. The stand which India has taken so far is very matured stand. India has now taken side of neither US and nor of Russia. We have tried to convey to the world that
territorial integrity and sovereignty of all nations must be protected. Second, we have said there is no military solution in this sort of conflict. It is a diplomatic and political solution. They must sit down together. First, there should be a ceasefire. There should be end of conflict, and then all the relevant party must sit together and find solution. So therefore, the India is trying to convey a very logical point. Now, the third issue which comes is what we were discussing, and I'm hearing other panelists also. My point is, I agree that Russia is a powerful military power. No, you can't remain a powerful military power if you do not have a matching economic power. Today, the economy of Russia is even smaller than Italy. How long they will be sustaining themselves? Now, the point is, today they have got two items from where they were earning money. One was gas and oil, and the second thing was military hardware. Now, both will get a hit. Now, these, restrictions which have been put and the sanctions which have been put, to look at, they look very innocent. But over a period of time, they are going to make an impact. Their dependency on China will increase tremendously. Russia does not have complete faith on China. They are their friend, because enemy is enemy, my friend. America has made them friend by having enmity both with Russia and both with China. But Russia never ever have complete faith in China. But unfortunately now Russia dependency on China will increase, and that is not a good sign for the whole world and for India. We always feel that if Russia becomes very close to China, it is a negative factor for India. So my point is, Russia will also realize in the long run there is a complete destruction of infrastructure of Ukraine. Ukraine is gone 30 to 40 years behind. And but Russia will also have an adverse impact on its economy. Russia military strength, you will find, has got a hard hit, and they will feel it. And should this war does not end into a proper result, and there is a government in exile which is made, and this insurgency and resistance in Ukraine continues, then the Russians are gone for a long haul, which they never wanted. This is a problem as far as Russia is concerned. They wanted to clean up that the NATO should not come. They will be a Afghanistan 2.0. वो हिंदी में कहते हैं दलदल में फंसना. So this can also happen. The resistance, the insurgency which will start in Russia, in Ukraine, will not be too conducive for Russia. Second, other issue which you are trying to convey is the type of war which has been fought between Russia and Ukraine. Are the war going to be like this in future? To some extent, yes. To some extent, no. To some extent, yes, because Ukraine is one of the biggest countries of the Europe. It has got a vast area. The urban pockets are limited, and hence the mechanized column could move faster. And they did not want to move cross country. They moved on roads because there were no resistance in between. You cannot try to implicate this sort of thing between India and Pakistan. Here it is built up area. Here there are fields. You can't move more than 2, 3, 4 kilometers like this. So therefore, the point which has come here in Ukraine, what Russia did was that three-pronged attack, which started from north, from Belarus, from east, from Donbass, and from south, from Kyiv, and then also from Black Sea. Basically, they wanted to come and sort of strangulate and isolate the built-up area. Things have not gone as per what Russian thought. Let me tell it very clearly. I have been following it very closely. What they thought that the war will freeze off, maybe 10 days, maybe 7 days, but it has not happened. The reason is the resistance offered by Ukraine was far greater than what was anticipated. And possibly, Zelensky, good or bad, his inspiration and leadership for remaining in Kyiv and motivating this has also made a difference. Third thing, the Russian, whatever you may say, they have good fighters, they have fought last time in Afghanistan, they did not succeed. I have not found any battle in this present conflict where you can say with pride the Russians have a masterstroke. They haven't. So they are going in a theoretical way. To me, it looks like that if the Stinger missile, if the Javelin, If the kamikaze drones and other weapons keep on flowing to the Kyiv will not fall. Kyiv will stay for long, and this will be a problem for Russia. But if the weapons are not coming, possibly the Kyiv may not last long. But certainly one thing has been taught to Russia, that it is not a cakewalk. They will have a tough fight. And the fourth thing which I say is, India must have learned a lesson. In future war will be a conventional war also can take place between India and Pakistan, India and China. We should be mentally prepared for it. We should not forget about it. We should improve our indigenous industry. We should maintain good relations with other countries, but we cannot depend upon them. When the chips are down, you have to fight your own war.
Thank you, sir. Now I'll be taking the short concluding remarks, and my next question will be to General Chakravorty, sir. Sir, where does the current conflict in Eastern Europe leave all the key stakeholders?
Well, I think firstly, I must thank both my panelists, General Siwach as well as Major Toor, to really educate me with their views. Many things possibly, it got clarified my mind. Where do we go now? I can only say one thing. See, any military person who goes into an invasion first thinks about the end state. Military operations are not done with what you call, the end state was very clear right on the first go for Russia. As has been, I think, summarized by all speakers, not to capture Ukraine or Kyiv. These are very difficult things to do. I mean to say, Mosul fell after 2 years. Will you like to, if today someone wants to fight, as I think has been correctly brought out, it is a tough go. So therefore, Russia, what does Russia? Russia wants Ukraine should not join NATO, or that is the principal aim. And second is that they would like to, now the aim has got extended, and this is their ulterior motive to keep the Donbass region, and which Major Toor very clearly gave the Donetsk and the Luhansk region. Third, they have got now, I think, the entire Crimean region. I mean to say, the Black Sea is with them. This is all that they are looking for. There is no reason, I mean to say, there is no ethnic similarity. If they even capture Kyiv by any means today, they are going to land up into a lot of problems, as General Siwach has so nicely brought out. Nobody can do it. It will be wrong on my part to even add one word. Every word that he spoke brings so much of sense. And I don't think the Russians, they will ever, having worked with them, having seen them, they are very pragmatic. You must understand one thing. Russia is a country of revolutions. You go through history, you go look at the books, War and Peace, Dr. Zhivago, and you go to the Hermitage in Leningrad, St. Petersburg, I'll put it. It's no longer Leningrad. I've been there. You see the paintings, believe me or not. You come to Peter the Great, you come to Catherine. I mean to say, all these leaders have seen revolutions. And this region, if I may call it. But I think Russia is very clear that there is no point in trying to get the entire region of Ukraine. There's no point in it. They are very clear about it. And therefore, they were the first to agree to talks.
Yes.
But as General Siwach says, if you keep adding the hot missiles, if you keep giving the stingers, you keep adding all this, what you call, shall I put it, condiments to warfare, the warfare will definitely get extended. Because as Major Toor has brought out very clearly, I mean, the Ukrainians have got no other option but to die. Whether you're killed by a fellow Ukrainian or but this. But I don't think Russia would like to extend it beyond a point. And I think the United States also should have sense. What does economies, I mean, say, we all know that the SWIFT system made it very clear. First time I went abroad and had to send money, back to India. Undoubtedly, it was the SWIFT. That means that it went through New York and came. I mean, say, that time everything went through New York. But I think the way things are going now, we may be landing up in a system or not net system may be coming up. Now, this is something which America must guard against. Will the dollar go?
Yes, sir.
And if because after all, today the principal currency is the dollar for any international agreement anywhere, be it Beijing, be it Moscow, be it, as General Siwach correctly brought out, the economy. You today put pressure. I think Major Toor is already raising his hand. Okay, and I can make out from the smile. I'm only raising a question which I've raised to many Americans. That don't forget that you yourself are very divided. Please, what you are hearing Biden, you're not hearing from the rest. Biden is an executive head, but if you think that the entire, I played golf with an American the other day, he says very clearly, I'm for Trump. The nationalist cause is being served there. I don't like anybody who has the ideas of Donald Trump, but Americans like it. And they don't love interfering into others' business. They said that he said very clearly, why should we be interfering with Russia?
Points
We have
taken, sir.
enough problems at home. Let us address those problems.
Yes.
So I'll conclude on that. One, Russia is very clear the end state what it is. And secondly, there's no point unnecessarily, as General Siwach, you prolong it and you go on and on and on, and then you have your everything. But the third major point is when you apply all these, what you call sanctions, everything has a counter. So is the dollar going to have an alternative? I think it will be best if Major Toor gives the answer. He knows more about it. And he has
Sir,
Yeah,
the thing is,
sorry, Major Toor, I'm interrupting. You'll say that, but I also have a question for you. That how does India safeguard its own interest in the prevailing circumstances? So you can add whatever you're saying along with the question.
We are in a win-win situation because recently Russia has said it is going to replace the dollar with yuan. So basically, all the trade that Russia is going to do is going to be done through China and the Indian market. There is already a deal in which we are already in negotiations to buy fuel and liquid petroleum gas at double to triple discounts, only to sell it to the world outside through Russia. This is exactly how North Korea had been staying alive via Russia and China. They are heavily dependent on coal. And in lieu of that, in lieu of coal, North Korea set up its labor camps in Russia, in Siberia, and into China. That, okay, we will cut wood for you. You flourish with your paper industry. In lieu for that, you give us coal. So now it is basically India is going to be at an advantageous position, number one, economically. So if we are with the dilemma that one more logical aspect I would like to say, since the time I have actually become an adult, I have seen the Indian rupee only do to and fro from 45 rupees to today 78 rupees. इसी के बीच में the money has been moving around in lieu of $1. So basically, I have not seen the Indian economy. I'm 1984 born. I have not seen the Indian economy make it so big. I have not seen the Indian economy plunge so down. We are at a stalemate. So the Western countries have made it a point for the developing countries to not even progress so much and not even to depreciate so much, just to keep them at an equilibrium. So basically, we are not moving anywhere. So probably now is the time and chance that where the powers between East and West are going to be defined, where we are going to be the major players. Number one. Number two, sir, tactically with the information that I have from Ukraine as we speak, sir, it is a season where there's a lot of snow. So the reason is that Russians are being forced to take the road. They tried to take the cross-country route, but their vehicles were getting bogged down, sir. So as a result, their mobility is totally restricted to the roads. Now, as per the eyewitness count, the major problem that the Russian forces are facing is punctured tires. Majority of their trucks, whichever are passing by, are having punctured tires. As a result, their convoys are not able to proceed further. Their columns are getting stalled, and after that, they are getting ambushed. So these are the very few simple things that the local territorial army and the neo-Nazi forces of Ukraine have been loitering and throwing anti-personnel and anti-tank mines on the road as if they are throwing stones. This is an eyewitness count from Mr. Sanjay Majnani, who escaped with his pregnant wife, sir. He is an eyewitness. He called me up and he said, Major Toor, with your guidance, I made it out into Poland. But a route which is for 3 hours, it took me 12 hours to cover that route, which is equivalent to 3 hours. Because at after every 200 to 300 meters, there are anti-personnel mines thrown on the road. Mines are supposed to be laid, camouflaged, and put underground, under the road or beneath the surface, so that it's not visible to the human eye. But here, these mines have literally been thrown onto the roads and onto the footpaths. So at night, he asked me that, sir, should I move at night? Koi nahi hoega. I said, please don't make a mistake. At night, any object moving for the Russians or Ukrainians is the enemy. So don't make the mistake. As a result, he moved early morning at first light, and this is the eyewitness count that he told me, sir. So the ground reality is much, much different than what we've been reading into the tactical point of view. There have been the NLAWs, which has been provided by the UK Army, which has been playing a pivotal role in stalling their convoys. And then there were earlier, we were expecting IEDs or something like that. IED is nowhere in the picture. They've thrown mines all over the road. They've thrown nails. They've thrown iron blades. As a result, the basic thing, a normal moving vehicle with a rubber tire gets stalled after 50 kilometers, even if it is tubeless. And then you have the Bayraktar TB2 drones that once the convoys slow down, they tactically home onto it and they ambush it. But now, sir, the ground reality is that they've run out of drones. The Bayraktar TB2 drones, which were provided to them by Turkey, they've almost run out, sir. And their Sukhoi 24 aircrafts, they are now lacking the ammunition that they have. So basically, air power has been restricted for the Ukrainians, and they've been having heavy losses on the ground as well. And there are many false flag operations that Russian paratroopers landing on the Ukrainian soil, changing into the Ukrainian soldiers' uniforms, and then moving in and then carrying out false flag operations at night, ambushing their checkpoints near key vital bridges and entry points to a city. So in war, everything is fair, and they are going to go to the dirtiest of means to have their motive achieved, but they will not go beyond the Dnieper River. Russia will restrict itself till the Dnieper River because it is going to provide a potential natural defense to the Russians. The southern part of Ukraine, they have already cut off. So Black Sea is out of the question for the Ukrainians. So basically, they have landlocked Ukraine. And now the main issue that they are going to address is, sir, the western front of Ukraine, where they are going to probably make a seal or a amphibia. They are going to make a fictional border, which is going to stop the incursions of Western mercenaries from coming into Ukraine and fighting the Russians and supplying them with weapons.
Yes, sir. My next question, which will be the concluding question, will be to General Siwach, sir. What do you see next, especially relating to world order? Do you see it changing? Because this war has brought the advancing of global Russia once again. We are talking Russia once again. As Chakravorty sir has also mentioned that after the collapse of Soviet Union, Russia was not much in talk, but this war again has brought it into talk. So do you see a change in world order?
There will be going to be a change in world order. It will be a multipolar, there is no doubt. Initially, everyone was thinking, it was a unipolar. Then China has come in a big way, and it looks to be bipolar. And China exercising and flexing its muscle, especially in South China. The Quad basically came for that because the vacuum which was created by US was filled by the China. As the things were moving, it looks like another 20-30 years it will be China which will be the power number one rather than the rather than US. But that also I suppose will now slow down. The point is this Quad, AUKUS, all these have come because with the same principle. The three fundamental principles of Quad is freedom of navigation, rule-based international order, maintaining territorial integrity and sovereignty of all nations, including minor island nations. Now, this all has come. What you are seeing in Ukraine, what Russia has done to Ukraine is what you don't want it happen in Indo-Pacific. If you see the three foundation and fundamental, principle of Quad. Having said so, what I want to bring 2-3 issues very categorically. One is that whatever is the lesson which you have to learn in the war which has taken place between Russia and Ukraine must be seen with a lot of caution. Because remember, Second World War, the Russians were very clever, and the Germans made the same mistake of coming into Russia in the same Ukraine terrain. Ukraine terrain is boggy, and especially during winters, it becomes slushy, and the tanks even cannot move. So not only B class vehicle, A class vehicle can't move, and that's why they get bogged down, and that's why they get restricted to roads. Now the point is, if Ukraine had a very good anti-tank defense, they could have shot down many more tanks on the road only because they were restricted on the road itself. Having said so, now what is the basically the another point which was coming, that India will stand to gain. To me, it looks like that possibly not. Because remember that India will not try to antagonize US. Take your mind back just about a year back when US has put restriction on Iran that you will not buy any oil from it. India was the first one to follow it. It was only China which did not follow it. And hence we did not buy the oil from Iran, which was cheaper to us, and also it has inbuilt sort of a security. But we did not buy because we did not want to antagonize. Now restriction has been put on, economic sanction has been put on Russia. Will we be bold enough to take it? Is my anyone take? Because reason is simple. You don't want to antagonize US now, and US has warned China. China has told, yes, we will abide by it. We will not buy or sell anything to Russia. So this point has to be seen very, attentively. Another thing is, remember that we are already in the process of taking S-400, and S-400 attracts CAATSA, countering America's Adversary to Sanction Act. There are secondary sanctions which can be imposed. The US has already put on China as well as in Turkey, and Turkey has been refused to be given F-35. So far, US has not put it because they know we are a strategic partner. But change of geostrategic environment now, what will be their stand on S-400? It needs to be watched. Second thing is, our dependency on Russia is huge in terms of maintenance and spare parts. Not only that we are going to get more weapons from them, this will also come under a lot of scrutiny. So we have to watch out. So I am not saying that everything will be very good for us or everything will be bad. We have to be very careful. We have to manage it. To look at, it does not seem to be very, very good situation for India. One is the economy will be hit. The inflation rate will increase. Then another thing is that your GDP will shrink. Oil, gas, zinc, copper, steel will become very costly. And next point is the spare parts which has to come from Russia. There will be some hits. And Russia will also have some adverse impact on their economy, because economy is not too powerful. It is a small economy, less than even Italy. It has a strong military, but not backed by a strong economy. You can't sustain for too long. So overall, a very interesting time.
I find a world order will change. It will be a multipolar. The small nations will now try to get more weapons to themselves to protect it. Countries will also like to go nuclear to show that if they are nuclear, they feel their inherent advantage of defense as well as their protection. That point will come. We also collective security like NATO. Countries will like to join more so that they become part of the collective security. Countries like Finland and Sweden, which were earlier do not want to join NATO, have shown their inclination. So you'll find not only Europe, also in Indo-Pacific, a change, a churning impact taking place. So this conflict has taught to the world many things. Let's not mistake it like Afghanistan war, Syria, Iraq. They were very small. They were of a very different nature. The reason for going was not very valid. It was not sort of a clean war. This war is slightly different, and this war brings the question mark into the security of the whole world. Whether this war will finish it now, I hope and pray that it does not go out of hand and become something more than what it is, or it should not become a nuclear. The diplomacy should take on. The war cannot be won on the battlefield. You have to find out a solution diplomatically, politically. I hope and pray a good sense prevails and we see this destruction to cease at the earliest in Ukraine.
Thank you. With that, we come to the end of the show. And thank you, General Siwach. Thank you, General Chakravorty. Thank you, Major Samar, for joining us and enlightening us on this issue. Namaste. Thank you.